The thing, Brendan, that really impresses me most about Flag is he's not a numbers guy. He doesn't go into a game wanting to score 25. And he can do that and has done it. He scored 42 against Notre Dame. But he goes into it with each play wanting to make the right play on that play. And by the end of the game, he's stacked the right play so many times. He's put up these numbers across the board where he's affected the game in just about every category. And he's ultra competitive. And like you've been through this much more than I have. Like there's so many players that are great competitors, but there's another gear that some of them have that put them on the top tier of competitors.
Yep,
and I
right.
honestly think that Flag is on that tier.
Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the Coach Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. I'll tell you what, today our annual draft preview show with the great Jay Bilas. For 23 years, he has been on the draft show on ESPN, and he knocks it out every year. And he's been kind enough for umpteen years to come on a show with us and share his thoughts and feelings on the players in the draft. We love it because we love the draft. It's a great 2 days now. It's going to 2 days since last year. It'll be it'll be Wednesday, June 25th, and the first rounders, and on Thursday, June 26th, the second round players are picked. And again, this is it's a super big time for NBA teams, but more importantly for young people's lives. The ones that get drafted in the first round, the second round, and then many won't get drafted, but they'll get two-way contracts, Exhibit 10 contracts, play in the summer league out in Las Vegas. It's just a great time for a young basketball player anywhere in the world because this draft is worldwide. Now, going to the Summer League, July 12 and 13, a little over 2 weeks from now, is our Coaching You Live 2025 Las Vegas clinic. The best in basketball. All NBA coaches are speakers. You still have time to sign up. Please, it's got to be on your basketball can't miss list because you get to sit up close and really personal and ask questions to some of the best coaches in basketball and learn from them. So again, if you've never been, please, if you have not missed in the past, make sure you go. We have general admission and we have our VIP, but only a few VIPs left. So go to coachingyoulive.com/2025 to sign up, and we'll see you there. And after this quick timeout, we'll be back with the great Jay Bilas. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our Playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, Build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your Fast Scout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the Fast Scout mobile app. The combination of Fast Draw and Fast Scout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any Fast Draw or Fast Scout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any Fast Draw and Fast Scout products. Our guest today, the great Jay Bilas. Jay, welcome, my friend. I appreciate you doing our annual draft prediction or format or preview. I bet is a better word. Yeah.
Well, Brendan, thank you for having me. It's always my honor to be with you. Such a great friend and a beacon in the game of basketball. So I'm proud to be with you.
Let me tell you, for our listeners, around the globe that listen, I had an incredible honor and last week to be with Jay for several days in Charlotte, North Carolina, his home. And he has a leadership program for college coaches that is absolutely one of the best things I've seen done in the game. And Jay, if you would share with our listeners, who many are high school, college coaches and professional coaches, why do you come about doing this and what is your purpose?
Well, Brendan, as you know, another basketball friend of mine, John Searby, who was an assistant coach and a head coach in college and an athletic director, we coached an AAU team years ago. It was my son's AAU team. And I was kind of horrified by the AAU scene that we saw. And he made a profound impact on me. He said, look, we can't change this. It's too big for us to change, but we can make it better in our own backyard. So we started a basketball camp 13 years ago. And it was a player-centric camp, but it morphed pretty quickly into a coaches development program for young coaches that wanted to work on staff at our camp. And then about 6-7 years ago, John came to me with an idea. He didn't think there was enough training for assistant coaches to make the move over that one seat, which is seems like it's a huge chasm to go from assistant coach to college head coach. And as I told you, my initial response was, who do we think we are? Like, we're going to help train head coaches in college. Like, that makes no sense to me. But we worked on the programming, the curriculum. And after a period of time, I said, you know what, let's try this. I think it's a good concept. And so we invite in between 12 and 15 Division I assistants that have been identified to us as head coaching candidates. And we bring in speakers to lecture to them. And then we have pretty significant training programs for media training. And then we also have sitting athletic directors, college athletic directors that come in and interview them for jobs. We call them mock interviews, but they're basically real interviews for these young coaches. And then they debrief all of it. So we had some wonderful people that came through the program over the years. And it really, I shouldn't say shocked me, but really surprised me that so many coaches and the like, when we asked them to come share time with these aspiring head coaches, I never got a no. Everybody's more often than not, people said, well, I was them, so I'll be there.
Yeah.
Like, I was in that seat, and I think I can help, and I want to help. And everybody moves heaven and earth to get there. And it's been, it's always been so inspiring to me that with all the perceived problems in the game and criticisms that some may have of things that are going on in the game, that almost without exception, when you leave there, you're inspired that, you know what, there are nothing but good people in this. This is a noble profession. And despite its issues, the bottom line is everybody really wants to do the right thing. And most everybody's in it for the right reasons. And relationships and teaching. And I always feel energized by that and hopeful that we've got, not that we have it figured out, but that we will figure it out. That there are just too many good people that have their hearts in the right place for us to, sort of the game to move anywhere but forward in a positive direction. I really believe that.
One of the things that, every time I go to something like that, I always say, what can you do? What you do is you stimulate people's thinking and you say, what more can we do? Oh gosh, this could be several days. This could be more days. We could have 100 people here. This whole thing could be a coaching thing. It's very, very stimulating. And you and John and of course, Brian Murray do an incredible job in putting that all together. And for me, who's been around half a century, hard to believe, it is absolutely one of the very best things I've ever seen and participated in by far. And Kevin Eastman, 17 years ago when we started coaching you, it was with that same concept of how do we develop college coaches? And it was the same concept because we felt that they were our next in line, but they weren't really being developed to succeed if they ever got a shot. A lot of guys,
and you and Kevin have had a much wider, deeper reach than our little program. But if anything, what we hope we've accomplished is that we've helped these young coaches ask themselves the right questions on all these different issues. And usually, I can't tell you how many of the coaches in this year's program reached out after we finished up on Sunday with all the things that and it was different for everybody, things they grabbed onto that they've taken back with their teams and their head coaches. And they're just sort of, they've examined things a little more deeply. And, but it's really interesting. The media training, because they have so little of that seemed to grab them as much as anything else. But you were there. I mean, how could you not sit through a presentation by Bob McKillop, the former Davidson head coach and Hall of Famer, and not go, my God? I mean, if I could be half of what he is, I'd be twice what I ever thought I could be. He's just an amazing human being, an amazing leader.
I've known Bobby 52 years, and I thought I knew him really, really well. Dell, I know really well, and Steph, who are his prodigal sons. And my God, the learning and the knowledge I came away from him was ridiculous. And we both spoke afterwards and said, I mean, this is as good as it gets for any field you're in, let alone as a coach. So to me, thank you. It was a treat, an honor, and I came away better. I came away much better coach.
The honor was ours. The honor was ours just to have you there and for you to share your wisdom and influence with those young coaches. And I mean, if one thing that Coach McKillop said, he was asked late in his presentation when he opened it up for questions from the coaches, and a young coach asked, what would you do differently if you could go back? And I don't think I'll ever forget his answer. He said, I'd love more. And he talked about discipline with tenderness. But like, how about that? He didn't say, well, I play more zone or I would have shortened my practices.
Nothing to do with basketball.
Said, I'd love more. I was blown away by that.
He was so good. And he was so vulnerable, and saying all of his shortcomings. Like if you listen to the first 10 minutes, you thought the guy didn't do shit as a coach. I said, oh, what the hell is he speaking? It was so vulnerable, and I knew him, and I didn't remember all that. Mm-hmm. That's what was so priceless about him. But I loved it, and the thing I love about things like that, Jay, is that you share. Everyone comes and they share, and you see the best of everyone coming out. And every one of your students that came there, and I say students, they were all coaches, has reached out to me since, and that, wow. And I said, and they all asked, "Can I call you? Can I?" Absolutely. For life, for life. Yeah. I mean, they're part of our group now. And I think that is so good. So you impacted so many people, and that's why we do this. And I thought it was priceless. And the kids that come to your camp Wow, what a treat for that to get fabulous coaching from D2 and D3. Great coaches, head coaches, coaching high school kids like that. No other camp in the country gets that.
Well, we're really lucky. You would have been shocked. The camp ended. It was poetic. We after we finished sort of the 5-on-5 championship, we had the 3-on-3 because we do like FIBA 3-on-3
Oh, wow.
competitions, and the 3-on-3 final ended the camp. And the last play, the winning bucket, was a middle drive and an alley oop dunk. And after 13
Wow.
years, the first year we ran the camp, I'm not sure we had anybody in the camp that could dunk. In year 13, we finished with essentially an NBA above the square two-handed alley-oop dunk. And I'm like, holy cow, like this has gone
That's
further
pretty
than
good.
I expected. That was fun.
That is great. Well, congrats on that and continued success on that. You have been one of the leading proponents for student athletes, for college players, uh, frankly, in one of their rights of the, name, image, and likeness. You started this years and years ago, and I know you felt like you were standing on top of the soapbox by yourself. People were trying to kick the soapbox over, uh, but as a not just as a not just as a lawyer, but just a damn decent, super decent human being. You knew it was something that they deserved. And now we've proceeded with this house settlement. It has nothing to do with a house. People don't understand what it is. But if you would give us uh, not your normal legal brief, but a short version of what has come out of all this.
It's really an interesting time in college sports and in sports, period. So that the House case is a federal antitrust lawsuit that former athletes brought against the NCAA. It was a class action lawsuit. Jeffrey Kessler was lead counsel, who had successfully prosecuted cases against the NFL, the NBA, all that.
Sure.
And he's the real thing. He
Yep.
doesn't lose. But the case settled, and it was a multi-billion-dollar action. So the settlement was just approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin in the Ninth Circuit. And so there are two aspects of the settlement. One aspect is backward looking and back damages to former players. And the other aspect is forward looking, which is revenue sharing with the athletes going forward. So first, the back damages, they settled on $2.8 billion being paid to athletes from, I think it's 2016 to
Yes.
2024. And so that's a class. I don't know exactly how they're going to portion the money. It's going
Right.
to go based upon athlete value, is my guess. But I haven't really dove into that. I was more interested in the forward-looking part of it. So now schools can revenue share with their athletes up to there's a number. It's 22% of the average revenue of the Power Fives. So it's about $20.5 million a year. And the schools don't have to pay anything to an athlete if they don't want to, but they're allowed to pay up to 20.5 million. How each school apportions that, if they want to give the lion's share to football, then men's and women's basketball, or if they want to have the best baseball program in the country, they can apportion more to baseball or swimming or gymnastics, whatever they like. It's up to them. But with that sort of cap, there will still be third-party NIL. So players like Cooper Flagg at Duke last year can still have a deal with Gatorade and New Balance. But those deals have to be approved, essentially. The NCAA has engaged Deloitte to pass on whether those deals are fair market value deals. So it won't be any more the sort of pay-for-play type deals where they give you, you get $500,000 to go speak at a soup kitchen or something in order to get your NIL money. So there'll be a little bit more stability in that. There can certainly be workarounds that I could imagine where if somebody wants to try to skirt it, they can. But all this really does, Brendan, in my view, is give the NCAA a period of a few years because, for most people, what I think they should understand is this settlement and revenue sharing with a $20.5 million cap is just trading one illegal wage cap for a much lower one at zero that we had for the last 100 years. So I don't see this holding up for years and years going forward. But I think it gives them a few years to get together a framework that will be legal going forward, that will not be subject to all these antitrust suits, maybe even Title IX lawsuits that may be coming. And there are two ways I think that can be accomplished. One is the NCAA sets up, or the conferences sets up some sort of collective bargaining, reaches a collective bargaining agreement with the players, which would shield it from antitrust litigation. Or the NCAA goes to Congress and says, look, you told us to get our act together. We settled this case. Here's the framework. Take this framework and give us a federal law that protects us from antitrust suits going forward. And I think that has a fair chance, at least a puncher's chance, of happening. But it clearly won't be exactly what the NCAA wants, and it likely won't be exactly what the players want. But I think that's got an opportunity. But this will stay in place and sort of give the NCAA an opportunity to stabilize things and reduce the amount of transfers. Because with revenue sharing, what schools can do now is they can sign a player to a multi-year contract, an athlete. And in that multi-year contract, I can envision a buyout being in there. So if you've got a buyout in there, it makes it a lot more difficult for a player to move around, because now that player gets way more expensive and likely more expensive than the player's value. But we'll see how it goes. Nobody knows exactly what it'll look like, but it'll certainly, in my view, look a lot better than it has looked over the last several years.
Boy, I think it's exciting, and what a time. I can only imagine you and your teammates at Duke. I know you always downplay how good you were, but I know how damn good you were. But your other friends and teammates like the Grant Hills and the Bobby Hurleys and those guys, can you imagine what they would have been in today's game? I mean,
the best part of it, Brendan, is, in my view, the best part of it is that players now can set themselves up for life if they handle themselves the right way. We're talking about generational wealth for these young players, that if you could bank in your college career, put away $750,000 or $500,000 or whatever, and if you're smart enough to leave it alone and let it work for you, that really sets up the players to do some great things in their lives and have that. And then they're going to leave college financially literate, which I certainly did not. When I had my first contract overseas, I had no idea about taxation, and I knew I had to pay taxes, but I had never gone through anything like that before. So I think it gives them a leg up. And talk about education. That's about as good an education as you could hope for a young athlete.
Yeah, that's great. Now you go to your real job, okay? And, for 23 years or so, you've been doing the NBA draft every year on TV for ESPN. Also this year, besides being the lead commentator, analyst on ESPN and ABC for college basketball and our Saturday game day show, you also put your foot in the water of the NBA. Welcome, my friend. And you were fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
You're kind, but I dove in head first. I mean, I loved every second of it.
Yeah, you were great. You really were.
It's funny for people. I tend to see either fans and observers that are either all in on the NBA or they're all in on college. So if they watch the NBA, they pretty much watch it exclusively. And same for people who prefer college. And so I found myself in the last year explaining why I love the NBA to college fans. And what I've said is, look, I love college. I'll never turn my back on it. It's fantastic, but the NBA is better basketball. It's just not even a discussion point. And first of all, they don't miss open shots. I mean, I see more made shots in an NBA game than I see in 2 college games.
Sure.
But it's just the highest level of play one could imagine, and the highest level of coaching. And that's not to say that the players and some of the players in college can't make the transition. Of course they can. And some of the coaches couldn't transition into the NBA and do really well. Of course they can, and vice versa. But if you prefer college basketball over the NBA, it's not for the basketball. It's for something else, because it's not close. The NBA is the best basketball on the planet.
And it's so much fun. You see guys do things that, you just don't see, and then you try to vision. I'm sure you say, okay, Cooper Flag, even though he's 18, what's he going to be like playing against OKC next year or against the Pacers and stuff? And that's fun. And to see, and you're going to go through this next week with the draft, where I always look back, and Cooper is, my opinion, by far the number one. We'll go to that, but there'll be guys picked 1, 2, and 3 that all of a sudden the best players in the league are picks 7, 13. I was teasing my friend Joe Dumars the other day. I said, it's amazing how you've made it. You were the 18th pick in the draft, and you're in the Hall of Fame,
I'll tell you, Brendan, you talk about a humbling experience. So I think when I first started doing the draft for ESPN in 2003, that was the LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade draft, Chris Bosh, all that. I probably had this feeling that you knew, like you could watch these guys and how they're going to do. And I quickly sort of learned, no, I have a belief. I've gathered information and intelligence on these players. And I have a belief, but nobody knows. Like there's nobody out there that knows. And like hands up all those when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was drafted 11th out of Kentucky, that said he was going to be the MVP and finished second the year before. I don't think anybody saw that. And I didn't.
Not a one person.
Nobody. And that's the beauty of it. Like you could sit and say, well, geez, I could embarrass myself with some of my judgments. I've gotten over that. I know I'm going to be wrong on some of these things. But the process is beautiful. I mean, I just love it. And the fact that we can't assess what's in their hearts and the courage they have. And it's a wonderful ride that starts on the first, that Wednesday night, the 25th. And I still get excited over the possibilities of it.
Do you like, last year was the first year that we did the draft on 2 nights, the first round on Wednesday night, and then the second round on Thursday. How is that for you?
It's way better on my bladder as I get older, because having to hold it for 6 straight hours sitting in one chair is a challenge as you get older. But I was told, and I have no idea whether this is right, but I was told that the NBA teams asked for it, that draft picks are too valuable to make them in a compressed amount of time. And what are the 2 or 3 minutes between picks in the second round? And you see so many second rounders, not all of them, obviously, but you see so many of them turn out to be really valuable assets. And so it makes perfect sense. And then I have no idea from a media perspective whether the second night it affects the ratings or all that stuff, but it makes night one a little more manageable. The first round, the 30 players selected. So I like it. But especially at age 61, when I was in my 40s, sitting there for 6 hours was just fine. I've never had to get up, even at age 60 last year, never had to get up. But I don't think those days are going to last much longer. And I am not prepared to wear a diaper up there. And I know that's coming at some point, but I'm not ready to do it yet.
All right. Well, let's go to the Mavericks unexpectedly get the first pick. Thank you, Nico. You're welcome, I should say. Obviously, Cooper's someone that so well from, just from covering the game, but mainly from Duke and stuff, and our friend John Shire. Tell me about him.
He's the best freshman Duke's ever had. And that doesn't mean that Grant Hill wasn't the most talented, but Grant Hill, even as great as he wasn't as good as Cooper as a freshman. He wasn't as complete and as polished. I actually think that Cooper Flag's defense might be the lead story over his offense right now, and his offense is considerable. I mean, he averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds and over 4 assists a game, and he gets blocks and steals. The thing, Brendan, that really impresses me most about Flag is he's not a numbers guy. He doesn't go into a game wanting to score 25. And he can do that and has done it. He scored 42 against Notre Dame. But he goes into it with each play wanting to make the right play on that play. And by the end of the game, he's stacked the right play so many times. He's put up these numbers across the board where he's affected the game in just about every category, and he's ultra competitive. And like you've been through this much more than I have. Like there's so many players that are great competitors, but there's another gear that some of them have that put them on the top tier of competitors. And I honestly think that Flag is on that tier. And I've told this story a couple times. I'm not sure whether I should tell it on the draft, but I was back at Duke to watch practice, and John Shire asked me, "Hey, would you mind speaking to the team?" He told me before I got there, and I was like, "Hey, if you want me to, yeah." And I'm always kind of reluctant to do that because when I was a player, I loved it when a 61-year-old man came in and told us what he thought. But now they got these really nice, almost theater settings for their scouting rooms and all that. So I'm standing in front of the team and giving my spiel and trying to be mindful that their attention spans are not what they perhaps used to be. So I look to my right as I'm standing in front of the team, and second or third row, there's Cooper Flag. And he's got a notebook out and he's taking notes. Like he's looking at me and then down taking notes. And honestly, my first reaction was, here we go. Like Eddie Haskell up there kind of, trying to impress somebody. And then I realized that's not what it was.
Yeah.
And now the players are so polite. Like they came down, shook hands, said thank you. And he actually when he did that, asked a question about something I had said.
Wow.
And like, he really did pay attention. And then you watch him in practice, and he's one of those guys that he's going to take advantage of every situation that he's in. And his maturity level for 17 years old at that time, and now barely 18. I think he turned 18 in late December.
Right.
You just don't see that very often. So with that sort of head start that he has, that's only, in my view, going to get better. And as long as he stays healthy, you're looking at a 10, 12 plus year career where, he's the Mavericks' future if they can keep him. I hear, hey, maybe they could trade him and get Giannis or get this guy. I'm like, no way. I wouldn't do that, especially with a contending team. It just wouldn't make sense to me personally.
Yeah, and I think the thing about him, and I've heard all the comparisons during the year, and I'm not going to slight the players' names, but the people that they're comparing to that used to play, our friend Stu Inman, God bless him, from the Portland Trailblazers GM, used to always say, Jay, who is Michael Jordan? That's what he always would say. So he would say, who is Cooper Flag? And they'll tell you, he's this guy. They're all way underselling him, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always look at a player, is he NBA ready to step in and play? A lot of guys aren't. Most guys aren't, especially when they're 18.
Yes.
I don't even know. I don't know too many guys that ever were. I mean, when Michael stepped in and Dominique stepped in, they were like 21, 22,
Right.
I mean, they were not that. And they had played in the Olympics and Michael's part and stuff like that. Cooper, I think, comes in and plays on a winning team right away. He's that sound fundamentally, I think.
I agree. And he can blend in and play whatever role. He doesn't have to go to the Mavericks and be the man that leads them from 25 wins to 50. Like, that's not the expectation he'll have. And I think he showed it on the USA Select team last summer.
Right.
That when he was 16 years old at that time, I think it was, maybe 17. But a young 17, he goes in there and the players on the Olympic team afterwards were like, this kid's the real deal. Like they knew. And he didn't have a great first day, but the second day, he just took off on everybody. And he's got a ton of ability, but he's still got the work ethic, and he's got this belief along with the competitive nature that he has, that I just don't see him not achieving his potential. Now, will he be the superstar of superstars? We'll see. I don't know the answer to that, but he's not going to fail. That's not going to happen.
Right. The kid I'm really surprised that it's really turning to be almost a unanimous number two is, I was really good friends and coached against Ron Harper, and I can't believe I told Ron, it's not often your kid's better than you, but I'm glad. He is absolutely, and Ron was great. Dylan's the real deal.
He's the real deal. 6'5", he's got a 6'10" wingspan or so.
Yeah.
And he's just got this knack to score. He's great in pick and roll situations. He can get his own shot. Another guy averaged about 20 a game. He's a good guard rebounder, a good passer. He can play make a little bit. He's not like John Stockton out there. I'm not saying that, but the one thing he has to improve upon is shooting consistency, especially off the dribble. But San Antonio, as you know, is picking number 2. And if it were based on need, I think San Antonio's need is shooting and a big guy that can take some pressure off of Victor Wembanyama.
Right.
I don't think he fits either of those two, but he's so talented that unless you're going to package 2 and 14 and move down, I think his talent level demands that he's selected at 2. But you see mock drafts and things when they say, well, they need shooting, so Con Knipple of Duke or Trey Johnson of Texas. I just don't see them going number 2, but I've been surprised before.
I'll tell you a quickie. Mike Fratello and I were coaching the Hawks, and we had the 6th pick in the draft. And so it's nothing like it is today, very unscientific. We just brought kids in, worked them out a little bit. Mike and I were unanimous. The guy we wanted was Karl Malone. We had Dominique Wilkins, Cliff Livingston, Antoine Carr, Kevin Willis. And Stan Kasten, the president of the team, now the owner of the Dodgers, says, we're picking a center to back up Tree Rollins. And he picked John Koncak. He overruled us. And Fratello and I said, never pass on an all-star, Stan. And that's the only thing I would say to anyone. The great Stu Inman again, you got Clyde Drexler, but you could have had Michael Jordan also.
Well, you remember the Bob Knight, Coach Knight and Stu Inman were great friends, as was Coach K and Stu Inman. And I knew Stu, just a wonderful man, a great basketball person. When Knight was coaching the Olympic team, he talked with Stu and said, "You got to take Michael Jordan. He's the best. He's the best player." And he said, "Well, Bob, we really need a center." And he goes, "Then play him at center."
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Tell me about, I'll just run through some guys. Ace Bailey.
Teammate of Harper's at Rutgers and another outstanding scorer. He averaged 18 a game while Harper averaged 19 or 20. Very good rebounder, good offensive rebounder. He's athletic, but he's not maybe a world-class athlete, but he's super athletic with a 7-foot wingspan. He's about 6'8", 6'9", but a really good shot maker. He makes tough challenge shots. And at the combine, I think he impressed people with the way he could, his shuttle run was great. He's agile. So I think as a ceiling, you're going, man, this guy could be something. He's just unpolished in a lot of ways. He's not much of a playmaker just yet. His turnovers versus assists is not where you want it to be. And you could question some of the shot selection and decision making, but you're not questioning it like against Northwestern when he gets 39 or, he has 38 in this game and you're going, holy cow. Yeah. But, he can be a better free throw shooter. He shoots just under 70%, if I remember right. But talent, like he could, I think you could see him at 3. You could also see him at 7. But it's not like that's that big of a spread. But you're not going to see, I don't think you're going to see too many teams pass on him. If they really like Knipple or Johnson or VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, okay, I can understand that. Past that, I don't think he falls. Yeah. He falls very far.
Reminds me a little bit of Brandon Miller, but not quite as tall, just a shade under, like that. You mentioned VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. Tremendous athlete.
Maybe the best athlete overall in this draft. Just an explosive kind of guard wing whose athletic profile gives him an edge on a number of these prospects on both ends of the floor. Transition athlete, max vertical guy. He pounds the glass. He's got good skills, but that's not the lead story with him. And I'm not very good at the comparison game as far as how like a player comp. But when I watch him play, it reminds me of Victor Oladipo when he was younger at Indiana, and then a little bit of Dwayne Wade in his young days at Marquette.
How about that?
I hesitate to compare him to the junior Dwayne Wade or the junior Victor Oladipo. And this one, you tell me if this resonates. When Grant Hill was a freshman, the knock on him was couldn't shoot. Grant Hill can't shoot.
Exactly right.
So if he had come out as a freshman, that would have been the knock on him. Well, he could shoot as a senior. As a senior, he could shoot it. And then he winds up being, the second pick in the draft or whatever it was, an NBA Hall of Famer. In his first 7 years in the league, he was Sandy Koufax. I mean, all-time great before he was injured, and then still played 18, 19 years in the league. Edgecombe reminds me of those guys at that age. And, now if he had longer in college, I think we'd be talking about him the same way as we talked about D. Wade as a junior. And because, people forget Dwayne Wade was a 5th pick in the draft. It's not like it was a complete no-brainer that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame. But I see Edgecombe as we could look back and go, how was he taken number 4 or 5?
Yeah, I think also a lot of people don't understand that somehow, somewhat way, when they go from college to the pros, in the pros, all they do is play basketball. They don't have to worry about class or anything, and they're maturing. And every perimeter player I've ever had gets better, is a better shooter with it after a couple of years in the pros. Doc Rivers, I remember when we had him in the summer league, 14 games we played that year. It was the 84 Olympic year in San Diego. I coached him 14 summer league games. He made 0 outside shots, not one. And he played 13 years in the pros and ended up being a great 3-point shooter at the end. So they get better. They get better coached, et cetera. I think that's really important. You mentioned Trey Johnson from Texas. Everyone was super, super high on him. I'm off and on a little bit with him, and but he's talented as heck. But I'm not sure. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to get into players once we get to 5 and below that for all their positives, there are a couple things that go, but what about this? So. And those, we said that about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guys we talked about before. So they're not finished products yet. So it's just what you believe and maybe what may stick in your mind a little bit. But he and Con Knippel are the best shooters in the draft. Wow. Johnson is more the type that can get his own. Like he can shoot it off the dribble, really good in catch and shoot situations. He shot like 41% in catch and shoot and not far off the dribble. He's not shown himself to be a rebounder defender just yet. That's something he needs to work on, but he knocks free throws down at a high rate. He shot like 88%.
That's ridiculous.
So as he improves, as he gets stronger and then becomes a better rim finisher and impacts the game a little bit more on the defensive end and gets stronger, that shooting piece, you just can't ignore. It's an elite skill that he has that translates very effectively to the NBA. So could I see him going number 4 to Charlotte? Sure, that's possible. I don't see him lasting much longer than 6 or 7, though. He's gonna be gone pretty quick in this thing.
Jay, the kid from Duke, Knippel. I mean, in the beginning of the year, I said, yeah, he's going to have to stay a year or two. He's not quick enough. I'm not sure he can guard. Then as the year went along, he just kept proving me wrong and wrong. He's a wonderful player, just really good. You got to see him a bunch, You really think he's gonna be selected, obviously, in the top 8 or 9 for sure.
For sure, and I think he could go top 5. I believe that. When I watched him early, I had this flashback to what I dug up on Kyle Korver when he came out of Creighton. And it was best shooter in the draft, but he doesn't really put it on the deck. And who's he going to guard in the NBA? And how long he played? 15 years, 16 years, maybe longer.
Right.
And so much for all of our analysis on that. And that included his coaching staff when he was at Creighton. But Knippel he's tough as nails. He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's not a long-armed kid, but he's a really good finisher at the rim. He's an excellent shooter. Like when the ball's coming his way, he doesn't catch it ready to shoot. He catches it to shoot it, and he makes you take it away, and he gets it off quick. And he's a deadly catch and shoot 3-point shooter. Really good off screens, but as a stationary shooter, he's excellent. And when he drives it, he drives with his strength. He's not a blow by guy, but when he gets into the lane, he plays off 2 feet. He's got a really good shot fake game. So he can shot fake it and go up, or shot fake and pass. And he gets loose balls. He's always around the ball. And when Cooper Flagg twisted his ankle, I think it was in game 1 of the ACC tournament, he had to switch roles, and all of a sudden he's the guy. And he wound up averaging 21 or 22 in the ACC tournament. He's MVP with Flagg out. 90-some% free throw shooter, over 40% from 3 on the season, played his best in big games. Will he get better shooting it off the dribble? Yes. Will he be able to hang defensively? I think he will. But because of the toughness and the shooting piece, and just sort of the old thing we tend to go to, which is he knows how to play.
Yeah.
I really like him a lot. I think he's going to do very well in the NBA.
The kid that just amazed me because he was another early entry to freaking college was Jeremiah Fears. He should have still been in high school this year. What a talented kid.
Really talented. One of the best ball handlers in the draft, if not the best. I mean, he's got a really slick handle and really dynamic and kind of creating for himself. He's a good passer. He's not a great perimeter shooter. He averaged 17, 18 points a game. He probably shot, 42% from the field overall, but he makes his free throws and he gets to the line. He's got a knack for getting fouled. Uses his body well. I'm not going to say he's SGA, but there's some similarities at the college level. And he shot 85%, shot close to 7 free throws a game. But he's not what I would call a great shooter or great decision maker. Like he shot about 22% off the dribble, and he only shot like right below 30% from 3. So that's not his strength, but getting into the lane, his handle, he's got a lot of ability, but I think he's got a lot to improve upon as well. And he's certainly capable of doing that. He's got a great aptitude for the game.
One of my favorite kids, because I got to see him with the NBA Academy in Africa, is our Duke friend, Kaman Malouch. I think he's really good. And the Spurs have not called me, but that's a guy I think they should try to get on their team because they need someone to be at center. Wimby's not a center. They need if you're going to get young people. This kid I think is a real center, and he just got so much better from the start of the season, in my opinion.
I agree, and I saw his first practice at Duke. He had gotten there from his experience in the Olympics over the summer. And so it was kind of his first 5-on-5. He blocked every shot, shot. And I was sitting next to Coach K during practice. And when John Shire came over afterwards, of course he asked Coach K first what he thought. And I thought that was the right decision. But Coach K says, I'm worried about Malowach's hands. And I'm like, God, he seemed like he caught everything. He says, no, I'm worried about him hurting his hands on the rim when he's up there blocking shots. He's around the rim all the time.
How about that?
And I was like, I'd never heard that before.
I've never heard it either.
I mean, he had like 90 dunks during the season. I mean, I never had to worry about hurting my hand like that.
And he's a wonderful kid.
I mean, wonderful kid, and he works his tail off.
Yeah.
He's a legit 7-footer with like a near 7'7" wingspan. And he's an unbelievable lob threat. So when he sets a screen and rolls hard to the basket, you can really throw it up almost as high as you want, and he'll go get it. And he's an excellent offensive rebounder. So,
yeah.
And you know how like offensive rebounding is back in the NBA. It's like ultra important now, where it went away for a little while, but it's back.
The big man is back, Jay, and the NBA, and and even two big men are back. Has Florida put that back in? But with your second guy being able to, all these guys can shoot, but this kid, I think, is really. I think he's not getting the value that we always like perimeter players and scorers, but this kid's legit. I didn't get to see Carter Bryant play. I saw Arizona play, but I don't remember him.
Yeah, he's a 3-and-D wing.
Okay.
So he didn't average a ton of points for Tommy Lloyd, but his athletic profile, like he's going to be taken in the top. He'll be taken in the lottery.
Yeah.
Whether it's top 10 or not, we'll have to see. He's like 6'7". Another one of these guys that his arms go forever. He's got a 6'11" wingspan. His vertical leap, I think he tied for the highest at the combine, and one of the top 5 fastest sprint times. But he's a potential guy. He's realized on some of it, like he averaged about 7 points and 4 or 5 rebounds a game.
Right.
He shot like 38% from 3, made about 40 of them this year. But he's not one of those guys that he's going to go in and create his own shot right now. And he's not a great free throw shooter, but he makes about 70%. That's not great, but it's not bad. But he's got a good looking stroke. And I think as he gets older and more mature in the game, he's just got such a high ceiling. But he can really disrupt things on defense with his length and athleticism, and he can guard multiple positions. He can switch. But with being like a vertical threat on both ends, and he's pretty competitive. But to be able to guard 1 through 4 and get steals and blocks, and make open threes, like he's a little bit. He's not the same, but he's a little bit like Ryan Dunn, that came out of Virginia and played with Phoenix.
Really good player, I think.
Like, you would laugh at this. So my first NBA game of the year was a preseason game between Phoenix and Denver. They were playing in Denver. Phoenix didn't have any of its starters. So, like, I was asking Mike Budenholzer, like, are you going to suit up for this game? None of your starters are going to play. And Ryan Dunn started. I think he made 5 threes on the season at Virginia. He made 6 in that game. And I was killing Tony Bennett. Like, you were holding him back. But I feel a little bit similar about Carter Bryant. Like he's not as experienced. He hasn't played as much as Ryan Dunn did. Ryan had another year on him, so he had way more experience. But he reminds me a little bit of Ryan.
You
Dunn.
See the upside there.
A little bit.
The kid from South Carolina, they had a rough year, but I'll tell you, Colin Murray-Boyles, left-handed guy, which seems to really, left-handers seem to play really well in the league. I think people are fluctuating. They're worried about him defensively and things like that. But I thought he was a very physical kid and played well in the SEC.
He's really good, and I don't worry about him defensively at all. That's the best part of him, in my view. So he played on a team that was way better than the record. I can't remember whether they were 8 or 9-0 when they started the season, beat Clemson, and then they got into, as you know, the best league in the country in the SEC, and they lost all these 1-possession games. They wound up like 2-16, and I had done a couple of their games in the SEC tournament, and I said this on the air, and I believed it. People thought, I was joking, but I wasn't. South Carolina was the best last place team in the history of college basketball. They were really good. And it's just mind-boggling that they were last place, but it just showed the strength of the league. But Colin Murray-Boyles had a great year. 17 points a game, well over 8 rebounds, 2.5 offensive rebounds per game, good passer, not a great shooter. Like he's not a perimeter stretch guy, but mid-range, great touch, but he's an excellent defender and an alert, smart defender. A lot of deflections, a lot of steals. He'll block shots. He can guard 1 through 4. You wouldn't put him on a 1, but he can switch out and hold his own. But he's got, talk about a guy that knows how to play. And I'm telling you, Brendan, like I was blown away by this. And I give their coach Lamont Paris, who I think has one of the best demeanors in basketball.
He does.
One of the best, unbelievable competitor, but at the same time, you're never going to see that guy sweat. And even after going through that horror show of 2-16, you could not. You would have thought they were 16-2 with their enthusiasm and their want to and their playing hard. They were not one of those teams when they got to the SEC tournament that they wanted to be over. And so they won their first game. I think they beat Vanderbilt. I can't remember. But then they played Arkansas. And they took Arkansas, I believe, to overtime, if I remember right. But it was a great game. Boyles was injured, and he would not stop playing. Like if they're like, that's the time where a lot of teams in that position, they're just ready for it to be over.
Right.
And not only was the team not ready, Colin Murray-Boyles would not come out of the game, and he had every reason to, as banged up as he got in that game. I was really impressed by that.
That's a great quality. Great quality. Did you like the kid from Russia that played for BYU? I love big point guards that like that, but Igor Demin.
Yeah, Yegor Demin. He's a Russian kid, and another guy who's got really good size. He's probably 6'8", and his arms are even longer than his height. You could argue that he's the best overall passer in this draft class.
I love him.
Really good playmaking skills, and he's got some intangible qualities of like when he's playing, you just kind of can't take your eyes off him. He turns it over a little bit too much, but he's a freshman. He's 19, but averaged about 11 a game, 6 assists, right about 3 turnovers, I think. But he can rebound his position. He's just not a great he's what I would call him is a streaky shooter. Like when he's making shots, you're going, does he ever miss? But there are times when he's missing shots, and you're going, does he ever make? But he doesn't, you can't tell by looking at him whether he's on a hot streak or a cold streak, if that makes sense. Like he keeps plugging. But I think he does need to improve his consistency from 3 and from the foul line. But he's not the greatest athlete, but he's a good athlete. But sort of, he's got that knows how to play gene as well, where you watch him and you go, okay, he can be polished up, but he's got what it takes. And I just don't know whether that means 11 or 16 or whatever.
Right, but I think he's going to be a good pro. I agree. I think he is. I agree with you. Depends. That's when we get down to that need area. A lot of teams need some bigs. Derek Queen's in that grouping, and he's not quite tall enough to be but he's not quite quick enough, but he's really got some skills. He is skilled. He's got really good hands. He's got good feet. I think you saw late in the season what he did in the NCAA tournament against Colorado State. I mean, he made that game-winning shot. And he gets to the foul line. Very good rebounder, very good offensive rebounder. I like him. But your point about he's not a wow athlete, and he's not doesn't have like positional size. Like he's a smaller power forward. He can certainly play the 5 at times, but that's not where you would want him. I mean, if you're after sort of like your point about centers being back. I would probably put Thomas Sorber of Georgetown ahead of him. Even what a post-up player. Big time post-up player.
He was injured toward the end of the year, but kind of elite length and elite defensive tools, and he's got a really good touch around the rim. Good rebounder, all that. Not a great jump shooter or anything, but to be able to be a lob threat, offensive rebounder, rim protector. And he is long, man. He's one of those, 6'10", 6'11" with a 7'6" wingspan type guy. And he's kind of one of those like he would have been at Georgetown under John Thompson too.
Yes.
Like he would have fit into that crew that they had there, where they had, center after center after center that played in the NBA.
He was one of those guys, if you ever tried to front him, he just really knew how to hold people off, and they could lob the ball to him and stuff. I thought he was really an intrigue. I'd never heard of him, and I thought he was a hell of an intriguing prospect. Give me some of the guys that you just kind of like that people maybe aren't talking about, or that you've kind of liked that, irregardless of where they go in the draft, you just think they're going to be a player in the league.
There's another Frenchman named Noah Senge, who's an 18-year-old, 6'9", player with a really good motor. He plays really hard, unbelievably athletic and versatile defensively. Scoring and being a polished offensive player is not where he is right now. He's not a great shooter, not a great 3-point shooter. But how many guys like we're describing have done really well in the NBA because they can come in and, like, one thing that doing NBA games this year, and I think you and I talked about this in Charlotte last week, is I think I knew it, but now, like, length in the NBA is, you can't duplicate. You have to have it, and he's got it. And you have what he has on the defensive end. The offense will come. I'm not saying he's going to be this great offensive player, but if I remember right, I don't think anybody said that about Scottie Pippen either when he came out. It's sort of that kind of athletic profile that Pippen had coming out of Central Arkansas. And I'm not saying he's going to be Scottie Pippen, but it's sort of that kind of thing that you're looking for, and Asenge's got it. And then the kid from Illinois, the point guard, Kasparas Jakučionis, who's from Lithuania.
Yep.
He had a really good year for Brad Underwood. Not the biggest guard. He's like 6'4", maybe 6'5" in shoes, and he's got a 6'7" wingspan. But boy, when he had some of his better games, I mean, he set a freshman record in Illinois of 20-point games. He had over 10 of them, and one of the best playmakers in the draft. Really good feel and pick and roll. Good rim finisher when he gets there, and he moves his feet really well. Average about 15 a game and close to 5 assists a game. Makes his free throws. Just not a consistent 3-point shooter yet. And he probably turned it over more than Brad. Well, one turnover is more than Brad Underwood won. But he had a lot of turnovers. But he had the ball in his hands all the time too, so had to make a lot of plays. So some of the turnovers were more than understandable.
And for some of our listeners that don't know, Lithuania has always produced some unbelievable players. It's one of the very best places in Europe for player development, and they've had so many great players out there, Sabonis, Marciulionis, and so many others. But it's a great basketball country. Florida was just Florida, Houston were just incredible teams this year, Duke, etc. But Florida had a spectacular team with 3 tremendous perimeter players. Their bigs were outstanding, and they will be next year. But they had arguably one of the best big game players we've seen in the NCAA tournament in years. Where do you see him? I remember during the tournament, people were saying he's a lottery pick. He's going to be. But project him now as we get the emotion away.
I think there's a very good chance that Walter Clayton Jr. goes in the top 20. Now, will it be 16, 18, 20? You could see him also going 25. I mean, there's a case to be made for all of that.
Right.
But to your point, so he's from Florida, and he was actually a coveted football player coming out of high school. He was recruited by all the big shot football programs, and actually could have gone to Florida playing football as a free safety. But he wound up going to Iona and playing for Rick Pitino there. And after a couple of years there, he's MAC Player of the Year and averaged about 18 a game at Iona. He transfers to Florida to play for Todd Golden, and it averaged 18, 19 a game with the Gators. And as you mentioned, took him to the national championship this last year. Really good shooter, and gets his own, dribbles into a 3 in transition, shoots it really well off pick and roll, can just hit his plant foot and he's up in the air and makes tough ones, and a good passer. He's not like a prototypical point guard. He's a scoring point guard, but quick, strong. He's just small. And there are 2 guys this year that are kind of, probably it used to be maybe 10 years ago, if a guy was small, I wasn't dismissive of it, but you were kind of reticent to say, okay, he's going to do really well in the NBA. It seemed like it was a league of bigger guards, but the last several years, it seems like smaller guards. It's not that much of a detriment. But it seems like it's kind of flipping back again, where you'd better have some size and length, and he doesn't have that. Like his wingspan's 6'4". And he and Jace Richardson of Michigan State, the freshman, Jason Richardson's son, who's another lefty, to your point, they're smaller, but they're both really good. Clayton's obviously older and further ahead, but Jace Richardson gives you a lot to like. It's just the only thing you can really say about him is they lack size, and that lack of size could be an issue on the defensive end, in the playoffs.
You got your mom's size, not your dad's.
Yeah.
He also got her looks. I tell Jason he also got her looks, but
thank God.
Yeah. So, I love the other two wings, that Elijah Martin and
Will Richard.
Boy, I mean, this is my thing about, I don't know if they're second round picks, but I know one thing. If I'm a GM, this is where I think we have to do a good job like the NFL does. There are so many good players that won't get drafted, but can play in this league. And these two guys can play in this league for sure. Because
no question.
Putting a 15-man roster together, in college, 15-man, you're not going to play those last 5 maybe. But now you don't worry about it in the pros because guys get hurt, etc. But I know one thing is that I want these guys around my team every day. I want them in practice because they're about the right things. They're about winning and stuff like that. And that's why I love guys from great programs like the Michigan States, and the Dukes and all those type of programs where they have really good coaching and they're just, team first guys, so to speak. And did you have a feel about those guys because you got to see them play a lot?
Yeah, I think they're both solid second-round picks in this draft. Elijah Martin, as you know, played for Dusty May at Florida Atlantic and was a mainstay on their Final Four team. And he's a 15-point a game guy wherever he is, and can take off and get you 25 or 30 in a particular game. Really tough. Another football player. He's more a quarterback, but really tough kid and physical driver, physical defender, gets steals. His steals come kind of on the ball. Will Richardson gets a lot of steals too, but his steals are more off the ball, and he's a better shooter. So I would probably say that Martin is the better driver, and Richard's the better shooter. Like he can spot up and he's got good range. So he can score. But I think both of them are solid second round assets. And when I say asset, not just asset in the pick being a draft asset, but they would be an asset on any team because they do whatever it takes, and they're low maintenance winners, which is what I think every team wants.
Any other second round picks or just guys that you saw this year that you liked?
Yeah, there's one guy, there are a couple guys that I would say. So one is Rasheer Fleming of St. Joe's, New Jersey kid. He's about 20 years old. Another one of these freak lengthy athletes. He's 6'8", but he's got a wingspan that goes to like 7'5".
Wow.
He can make a perimeter shot, but where he really excels is defense and transition, and a very good rebounder, a very good offensive rebounder as a wing. He's probably 15 points a game, but because he gets to the basket so well, especially in the A-10, he shot a good percentage, but didn't shoot a good percentage from three. But what he's not going to be a self-creator or anything, but his ability to rebound the ball and his defensive ability, similar to like Carter, what we talked about with Carter Bryant of Arizona, makes him really. It makes him really attractive, but I think he's even a little bit better shooter than Bryant right now.
Wow.
He can hit a perimeter shot. I mean, he's not a great shooter, but he can make open shots. So at 20 years old, he's still got a lot of growth in him. When I say that, I always catch myself. Like when I was in college and throughout your career, back when 22-year-olds were drafted, they were rookies that didn't know anything, that had a lot to learn and a lot of potential. And now they're seen, a 22-year-old is seen as, well, he's close to his ceiling. And I do not believe that to be true. I just don't believe that.
It's almost like the major league draft. They'd always wanted to pick the high school kids. Now they want the kids in Omaha because now they're ready to play
Right.
sooner.
Right.
And that's what we should be focused on. What are some of the traits that, as you go around the country every year doing this, and you speak to teams during the year when you go into before the game, that you see in players that you think make them most successful in their transition from college to the NBA?
And this sounds cliche, but I think the players that, one, don't just put in the work, they put in the extra work and they're willing to do it. They're disciplined in that regard. And then the players who are willing to do whatever it takes to get on the floor, that it's kind of they're not concerned with themselves. They're concerned with how can I help the team? Like they're process oriented rather than result oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's got the goal of getting to the NBA.
Sure.
And the ones that are focused on getting to the NBA seem to be the ones that create problems for themselves more often than others. The ones that are focused on, well, I'm gonna start stacking days now, and I'm gonna do what it takes to be good today and to help my team today. Like, you've evaluated players for a million years, and the people I know that watch players play, they're not going to watch a guy get 40. I mean, they're not opposed to it, but they want to see him do the other stuff. Like there are a precious few players that are going to come into the NBA and be expected to be the leading scorer in an NBA team. Precious few. Everybody else has to go in there and fill a need and be really good role players, even if it's a Robin to somebody's Batman. Like when Jalen Williams came out of Santa Clara, who expected this? I don't know that they did, but that guy has worked his tail off to become what he is now. And then he goes and in game 5 puts up 40. And it was such a joy to watch that, because he didn't get it all off of creating it himself. He got it in transition. He got it off of steal.
Right.
He got it off the glass, driving a closeout. It wasn't like he was get the ball in his hands and let him go to work for the whole game. He did some of that, but and then he guards his tail off on the defensive end. And the guys that are impacting the game on both ends are the ones that you give a leg up, saying, "Man, this guy gets it." And the earlier you get it, the longer you're going to play.
Jay, Billy Donovan the coach of the Bulls, came last year to Larry Shiatt's clinic in August, which you're going to be at this year. But he made an amazing thing. He said he was actually speaking to the Florida team while they were ready to start their workout. And he said, "I've sat in the draft room now for all these years. We've never had a discussion and said how many points a guy averages. How many threes did he make? All we say is, can he help us win?"
Mm-hmm.
That's the only discussion we have. Can he help us win? And I think I think that's the thing that I wish we could convey more to kids. But that's really great stuff.
I think everybody does a good job of telling them.
Yeah.
But what they see on television, where the scorers and the top 10 plays and Instagram and all the stuff they're bombarded with, it tends to obscure the message that the right message, which is, if you're on a losing team, nobody cares what your averages are. They do not care. You can lead the league in scoring. You're not going to be all league. You're not going to get what you think you deserve. If you're on a winning team or a championship team, everybody's got that shine on them, and they'll think you're better than you are if you contribute to winning.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the message you want everybody to get. But it's like we always say, like it's that youth is wasted on the young.
We both agree on that. Jay, another great, incredible draft show. Thanks always for sharing your wisdom and knowledge, and we're so grateful to you and everything you've always done for coaching you, and for most of all, not for our listeners who just love you and love your stuff you share. Have a great time next week at the draft and everything like that. and hit them straight this summer until I see you next.
I will. I'll see you in August in Charlotte for that clinic. I'm looking forward to it already.
Looking forward to it. Thanks again.
Thank you, my friend.